Hey traders and investors, checking in on the cannabis and psychedelic spaces. The cannabis bulls were out today shaping up daily trend changes. I'll show you what they have to do to continue to prove it and some bullish reactions to earnings reports. So before we get into the individual charts, I want to talk a bit about correlations because the two major things that I need to see for a cycle shift is bull volume and a bullish correlation. And I want to describe a bit what I mean by that because it's so important to me and it's something I'm looking for on a daily basis. And over the past 3 years, I would say if you asked me what is the most improvement you've made in your trading game, it has been recognizing correlations and acting on them or not acting because of them. So IWM is going to be key for us going forward. IWM is the Russell 2000. It represents smaller companies and growth, and it's certainly what cannabis fits in as far as, grouping with regards to the broader market. And IWM just had this breakout that we were looking for in terms of sideways for 7 months and then a new all-time high. So it's looking really good. The daily consolidation we're currently seeing, there's no major red flags. We're looking for a higher low. We're holding EMA 12. Today was a daily inside bar. And what we need to see for this sector to continue to benefit is continued strength in IWM. So what we want to see is this daily inside bar break bull tomorrow and for us to be looking right back up to new all-time highs into next week. So that would be ideal. And when we look at IWM, you know what a bearish correlation is because if you've been watching cannabis for the last 6 months, that's a bearish correlation. The broader market's going up. And again, I've said it many times, but for every 2 steps forward in the market, we take 1 step forward. Every step back in the market, we take 2 steps back. That's why on big green days, we're barely struggling to stay break even. And on red days, we're very red. And that's how it's been for 6 months during this consolidation. And over the last few days, while this bounce has been trying to play out in cannabis, we've seen that start to shift a little bit, where we're starting to see bullish correlations. SPY is dropping a little bit, SPY is consolidating, and the sector is green. And that's very new. And there's also something you'll notice that when cannabis is green, usually you will see the solar sector green, you'll see electric vehicle names green or related to electric vehicles. Today it was NIO, you got BLNK and some of these in that sector. And others that you look for, sometimes the biotech sector, but really that's what I look for. Solar and EV, are they participating as well? And they do well when IWM goes up. So today, just an example, 5-minute time frame. On the left, we've got IWM. On the right, we've got MSOS. And you might look at that and say, well, there's no correlation. But I look at that and see a significant correlation as I stare at it throughout the entire day. And what you're seeing is a bullish correlation. So we're not immune to what IWM does. We can just ignore its pullbacks and benefit from its strength when we're in a bullish correlation. So you see we pulled back here on MSOS. We hit a new high of the day only by 10 cents, and then we had 15 minutes of consolidation. And if we look at that 15 minutes of consolidation, that happened at 10:25, 10:30, 10:35. And we can see here what IWM was doing at that point in time was this drop right here. So it is impacting, in my opinion, it aligns with when we consolidate on the way up. And then at the end of the day here, we pulled back from 230 to, let's call it 250. What was happening at 230 to 250? That was this drop right here on IWM. We ignored this drop right here and kept going up. So, and you can see the uptrend strength here is obviously much stronger in MSOS than it is versus IWM. So essentially what we were seeing is 2 steps forward in MSOS for every 1 step forward in IWM. And when IWM would drop down, we would be inhibited a bit. We would pull back a bit, but insignificantly. It was just a higher low, and then we continued with that uptrend. So that is a bullish correlation. Another good example would be in the cryptocurrency space this past week, one of the crypto mining stocks, MARA, has been on fire. It's just been exploding to the upside because Bitcoin's been really strong. But it had a bullish correlation against Bitcoin. And the ways that I recognize it throughout the day, I look and I say, okay, did MSOS just hit a new high of the day? Yes. Where's IWM? Did IWM already hit its new high of the day, or is MSOS leading the way? And here on, no, we both hit the same high of the day at the same time. Not a good example, but oftentimes that's how I look. Low of the day or high of the day. If SPY is consolidating but holding the low of the day, or IWM, and MSOS hits a new fresh low of the day, bearish correlation. So gauging the high and the low of the day are often ways that are visually easy to distinguish exactly what's going on if you're not staring at the screen all day. And again, if you're coming home, from work and you're not staring at the screen all day, you can check back in and see how it played out and just look at the 15-minute time frame and compare the two names and say, okay, well, MSOS was more bullish than IWM today. That's a great sign. That has to keep up. I got out of a tangent of MARA. So a bullish correlation comparative to Bitcoin, this entire move up. We noted the correlation shifted this day. So back on, what was that, Tuesday? We saw, the miners are weaker than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at its high of the day right now, and MARA and its peers in the same sector are not. That's different than we've seen in the past couple of weeks. We're paying attention to that. And then we had a big dump day yesterday. And then today, some signs of life that the correlation is going back towards the bulls. We were stronger than Bitcoin a good bit of today on this bounce. So I use it all the time in all different sectors. I use it on different time frames, and just it helps me in many ways to know where to look, but also know not where to look. So if I'm looking and Tesla is way overextended, I'm thinking about shorting Tesla. It's due for consolidation. I'll look at it and say, well, we've been bullishly correlated to SPY and QQQ the entire day. Why don't I try and short a name that has a bearish correlation? So it keeps me from taking poor trades as well. Always on top of that correlation. Another thing that we have to make note of with MSOS is this end of the day dump that is now becoming a thing, where we have a really strong close shaping up, and then in the last 30 minutes, we saw it at the end of last week, and we just saw it here again. 3:30 rolls around, and the sell programs kick in. Bulls can't allow themselves to be bullied like that. You know, if I'm a bull with millions in positions, I'm saving capital and I'm waiting till 3:30, and I'm playing defense or going on offense and getting aggressive. You can't get pushed around by that like that, because where you close is so key. And that happened, it was, what was it, it was Monday. It seems like last week. But if you're getting pushed around like that, you lose momentum. You want to close at the high of the day. When you close at the high of the day, you show strong momentum. And not only that, unless there's big moves overnight, but if nothing notable happens in the market overnight, you're set up to open right at the high of the previous day tomorrow. And it's very easy to break that resistance first thing. And that continues the higher lows and higher highs. But if you're closing after a half-hour dump down off that high of the day, then it's harder. You know, now we have to make over a 1% move just to test the high of today resistance, as opposed to closing 0.1% under it. And we know from Canadian MJ, when we're really strong, we close up at the high of the day and we look for follow through the next day, whether it's a small gap up or whether it's an open where we can break the high of the day right away. But when you open lower, you give bears a level to play off of, or even hedging bulls. You know, if I'm loaded up in MSOS and tomorrow we open at 350 and we move up the first 10 minutes of trading to 360, if I short at 360 and I put a stop buy at 370, I am protecting myself, where if we break the high of today and follow through, I will stop out and I'll take a small loss, but my bigger position that I'm holding more than makes up for that. But if we reject and we consolidate, I've got a short that's now making me money. So again, it gives the bears a level to play off of if you have that resistance looming overhead. So that last 30 minutes has got to go, because bulls can't allow that to happen and ruin momentum. That last 30-minute drop erased hours of climbing, slow climbing up. That was 3 hours of work erased in 30 minutes. Can't let it happen. All right, so on to Canadian MJ first. Then we'll look at USMJ. ACB is taking the crown right now as lead Canadian MJ bull. Cron had it for a day and couldn't take the heat and fell apart. So ACB is now stepping up. It had its earnings reaction. We had an inside bar yesterday where the range of yesterday's trading was completely within the range of Tuesday. And today we broke bullish. And why it is a leader for me, we have a weekly higher low here. No other Canadian MJ names are close to changing a weekly trend. But if these bulls get back over 788, this is a weekly higher low and higher high. And at that point, after 788, again, we look back and say, anybody that has shorted this name in the last 4 months is now underwater. And that's significant. That is a significant shift to 4-month highs. And again, you look at CGC, and it's had a great bounce this week. Absolutely. I'm not going to knock that. But to get to the same point, to be at the highest prices in 4 months, we would need to be up 50% higher right now at about 20. So there's a lot more overhead resistance on CGC. And we don't have a daily uptrend yet. Wherever this move tops out, we haven't topped out yet. If the inside bar today breaks bear, The daily consolidation will be underway. We'll scout the higher low, and then we have to confirm the trend change like some of our USMJ names are already doing. Green Thumb is doing it right. If you want an example, look to Green Thumb of what every single bull wants to see happen. We haven't topped out on the bounce yet. We're putting in a higher low every single day. When that pattern breaks, that's when the daily consolidation begins, and then the bulls have to prove it with the follow through. So we'll see tomorrow whether this move has topped out yet or not. But a nice little green day for Canadian MJ. It's just US MJ was more impressive overall. Cron, so there's its lead bull back to lead bear, big time pullback. Decent bounce. The daily higher low is set. We knew the daily higher low was the most likely scenario, but now that it is set at 543, we got a lot of space to set that daily lower high. You know, we can go up 20% from here and still be looking for a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. So what the bulls are hoping for is as much retracement as possible to get back up to the midway point of this range, 50% retracement plus, to try and see an equilibrium form. And we need a little bit more green follow through for that to be the case. TLRY, daily inside bar today. If the inside bar breaks bull tomorrow, our daily higher low is set at 1140. And then it's up to the bulls to break 1271 to keep the daily uptrend going. And I say keep it going because we already had a higher low, higher high. Here's a higher low attempt. And if the inside bar breaks bull, it is set. That is then the most important support level for me. And the bulls have to break 1271. Who did I miss? CGC. I think we got them all the major ones. VFF is still in there. I'm keeping an eye on it, but it's not doing anything notable enough for me to pay attention to it rather than the major names. So MSOS, daily higher low set. I re-entered this morning, first thing, 935. And the reason I was re-entering is saying, okay, if this is going to be our daily higher low, I'm just going to get exactly what I said so you can see what was going through my mind. But essentially, if this is going to be our daily higher low at 28.39, I want to position, obviously. If 28.39 is going to break from here, then I don't want in because a daily trend change is going to be way less likely. So I was watching at CMPS, we'll get to that in a minute, grabbing some MSOS, stop under 28.39. That is either the daily higher low or I stop out of my new swing position. And the resistance using the low, I moved up my stop using the low of today. So what was going through my mind as that game plan was being established? So knowing that a daily higher low, first off, most likely scenario, I know a daily higher low compared to 25.70 is the most likely scenario. How do I know that? The size of the bull move. We got plenty of space to work with. So now that a couple of days of consolidation have taken place, I'm starting to scout that daily higher low. So usually it's an hourly trend change back to the bulls that indicate a daily higher low has been established. But as soon as we opened higher today, and then we pulled back a little bit the first 5 minutes, but insignificant, I then said, okay, I'm playing off that low of yesterday. That's going to be my stop. And it was down at 28.39. And then through the morning a bit longer, as soon as we hit a new high of the day from that point, I say, okay, we've moved enough above the high, above the low of yesterday, where if we were to give that back, it would be a big red flag to me. That has to be the higher low. So that is what my stop loss is based off of. We then got to the point through the morning where it was a big enough move off the low of today, where it was the same thing. Okay, if we give back this morning bull move and break the low of today, it's a huge red flag for my trade thesis. And my trade thesis is I want a position for a daily trend change to take place for a longer term shift in momentum. So I moved up my stop, and now instead of risking to 28.39, my risk is cut by almost 1%. And I'll stop out if 28 or more than 1%. I'll stop out if 28.83 breaks. So I move up my stop, my risk is smaller, and now I'm in this swing position again. When I'm talking about my positions, just keep in mind I have a core that I am not trading right now as I'm looking for a longer term shift. And then I'm adding and subtracting from that position in size based on my confidence in the setup. So taking some profit on the initial move up, re-entering when it looks like our daily higher low is being set. Now I'm back to a bigger swing position as I'm giving the bulls a chance for a break of 31.58 to confirm the first daily trend change in a while. This is now a very important support level for me, 28.39, and that is the level that my stop losses are based off of, because if that level breaks, we do not have a daily trend change, and it's a big red flag that we're heading back towards our recent lows. Volume's great for the bulls here. And we retraced. I talked about the retracement sizes. We did retrace over 50% here. But if we see that kind of volume above average, that's 200%. The 20-day average volume. If bulls can come up with that again, then we can break to a higher high. It's just a less likely scenario. Once you reach the 50% retracement, it's less likely you go right to that higher high. But if you bring the bull volume, that less likely scenario can take place. And we need IWM's help. If IWM breaks the daily inside bar, bull heads back towards the all-time high, it's really going to help this sector try and confirm this daily trend change. So that's key for me tomorrow. GTBIF earnings reaction is a beauty. So we have our low, high of the bounce, daily higher low, and there's your higher high. Very significant follow through. This is now a lead bull, and certainly with a 16% day, getting attention, and that's what we want to see for the sector. Next major resistance level is 28.90. That is our weekly lower high. We're still in a weekly downtrend. Remember, it's one time frame at a time. We changed the hourly trends. Now we've changed the daily trend. Eventually, we're going to top out on this bounce, and we're going to look for a weekly higher low. Everybody's going to be worried, is that it for this move? Are we done? And then we need to confirm the weekly trend change for a longer term momentum shift. And we have a lot of little possible news headlines we need to be keeping an eye on. One thing that happened recently, VRNOF had that halt, and it had news about Connecticut. And just be aware that if there is ever any news of an MSO getting an outside buyout or a large stake, just like Constellation did with CGC, that is automatic go aggressive buy now mode for peers. So if during that halt, I didn't anticipate it, I said, maybe 5% chance, but you got to be ready, because if that news comes, ideally from an outside buyer, alcohol, tobacco, pharmaceutical, whoever, if that news hits, market buy peers, because that's going to get running room for follow through. So I'm not anticipating that anytime soon, but it could happen at any time. Just have that be an automatic plan. Rather than seeing that news and not knowing how to act, make it a very simple if-then statement. If this kind of news, then I will do this. Have the game plan already established to act on. There's obviously other news that we can look towards in the short term that could have some beneficial impact, but I'm not sitting here relying on news. If I'm going to be in a strong sector that's making a longer term momentum shift, bulls need to do it with or without help. They need the volume, they need the price action, and they need some help from broader market. But I'm not going to be here relying on news to help my positions go green. It's just a nice bonus when it happens. TCNNF, daily higher low trying to form here. We got a wall of resistance, 29.58, 50, 50. Triple top the last 3 days. Bulls must get over that level. We've got earnings on Monday. If it's a bullish earnings reaction, we'll follow suit with GTBIF and look for a break of 30.88 to confirm the daily trend change, and it would confirm weekly trend change follow through at the same time if we can break that level. So bulls certainly want a bullish reaction to earnings there. CRLBF earnings reaction. GTBIF stole the show as far as just getting the spotlight, but it's a good day. Daily higher low trying to shape up at 840. And again, we can just make a simple statement. If I want to go real aggressive here, that's the stop loss that I'm using. It's closer, it's less risk, and if that level breaks, it's definitely a red flag for losing short-term momentum. The bulls must get over 938 and 974 for continuation of a daily uptrend. Bull cross of the 12 and 26 EMAs, and it has happened in the past without follow through, but it hasn't happened in a long time, so that's a good sign as well. MSOS, when's the last time it happened? It hasn't. That will be notable. If we change the daily trend here, we're getting a bull cross of the EMA 12 and 26 for the first time since all-time highs. And it was certainly a major red flag after the bear cross, looking back in hindsight, preceding 6 months of downtrend. CRLF lead bear. Have to call it like it is. Bearish reaction to earnings. The drop to a lower low. Granted, it's OTC, and the opens for OTC I trust way less. I bet CURA didn't even gap down. Nope. OTC is just the Wild West. And this chart looks a lot more correct for me, just in terms of, that gap down is very unusual, knowing what the sector did today. So Cura, I like better for clarity. I usually go where the dollar volume is higher for what I'm charting, but looking at a daily higher low trying to form, but What's the percentage move needed for a trend change? 1384. It's a lot more than all of its peers. So it's starting. Just imagine a starting line at a race, and Curaleaf is 5 yards back, and GTBIF is 5 yards forward. That's how we're distinguishing stronger and weaker names based on their technical setups. On to the beat up psychedelic space. So CMPS, multiple daily inside bars. This is a top watch for me tomorrow. And if the inside bars break bull, then we're going to look for a daily lower high to be the result of that bounce. But there's a potential opportunity there with the size of this pullback. Today there was a bottom fish off of 33.01. That was one of the trades we were looking at. For me, it was either I'm entering USMJ or I'm going to focus on psychedelics. I don't want to spread my attention too thin, so I chose MSOS rather than CMPS. But there was a nice trade there where in the morning we drop down and test the low of yesterday. We hold it by less than 1%, and then we shoot up 6% from there. So there was a really nice bottom fish trade, but 7%. But we haven't broken bull yet. Need to see a bull break tomorrow of 35.64. And then what we're looking for is a lower high. Whoops, too much. A lower high, hold the low, confirm a daily trend change if we're going to regain bull momentum. ATAI held the low of the dump, got a price upgrade, but still struggling to shift momentum back to the bulls, still trying to build a base of support after that big bearish reaction. And MNMD is real weak, heading back down towards our recent lows. These names have earnings coming up, but not losing sight of this sector as well. More focus on cannabis right now because this sector had a multiple week run and then sold off, and watching to see if we can get this multiple week run going in cannabis. All right, feel free to ask any questions. Congrats to the bulls today. More is needed. We are up a bit in MSOS after hours, but doesn't have to be tomorrow. We don't have to see MSOS break the high of this move tomorrow. That would be great, but want to keep it going. Worst case scenario, fail 31.58 and drop down and break 28.39. Always plan for worst case scenario. Recognize it. Tell yourself, if this happens, it's a big red flag to me. We need to be looking at both sides of things, sunshine and rainbows and the depths of despair, so we're prepared no matter what happens. Do good things.